Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome all to the Verbal Outpost. My name's Shafiq and I'm here with my co-host Hamza, who I'm just going to do a quick mic check. Let's make sure it's working.
See if it works. Assalamu alaikum.
No, one sec. Let's try now.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, that's working
all
right now.
We're good, yeah?
You're good. So
Great
let me
stuff.
see which mic you are though. Can you keep talking?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. You're mic 3. And we also have today's guest, Pam. So we'll do a quick mic test first, who's been kind enough to join us here in the studio for a little conversation. Pam, do you want to just...
So you want me to say hello?
Yeah, I just want you to say hello to those listening. Yeah, thank you very much, Pam. We're live in the studio today, so if you wish to join in on the conversation, please do give us a call. Telephone number is 0115 8411 800. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do leave any comments in the section below or hit like on our videos. Thank you. So we're going to have a couple of breaks coming up, so we'll just do a quick introduction into Pam. So Pam, she actually hosts a show here on Radio Dawn as well. You've been presenting since 2017, I believe.
Round about there.
Yeah. Called The Empathy Hour, a show highlighting compassion, understanding, and emotional challenges faced by society by all age groups. Pam, whose parents are part of the Windrush generation, she's a mother and a grandmother with a background working in health and well-being. So that's what I do know about you. Is there anything I've missed?
I think there's a lot that's been missed. Go on, Pam, do you want to fill the blanks?
Right, if you ask me what you want to know, I can, talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess one of the interesting parts for us is that with your parents being part of the Windrush generation, I think that's been something that's been of interest for me and Hamza anyway, because it's quite a stark contrast to like our parents or our grandparents that came here, because whereas they came here and they were to get citizenship, I imagine it'll be quite different for people of the Windrush generation who came here, and obviously there was that scandal in 2018 where it was very different for them. All their paperwork was all over the place, and suddenly they've just realized, oh, hold on, we don't have legal status here. And, some people who have never even seen Jamaica or any of these Caribbean countries, they're being told, look, we're going to have to deport you to these countries. So, I mean, it's a very different. So I'm sort of interested in what your experience is and the people in your community, what it's been like for them during that time.
I know when my parents came, they came on a British passport.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a British because they came here to work. So you see a lot of us, then they came, it was the hospital, it was buses, it was train and dustbin as well. So the dustbin, my dad used to be a dustbin collector.
Oh, okay.
And the bin, what you see today, is completely different because he had to carry the metal bill.
So they had metal bin.
Yes.
And they have to lift it up and put over their shoulder as well. So they didn't have wheeler bin.
Oh, not nice and easy like the way where we roll it out onto the front of our house. So
in them days, it was old work. And also, I remember when they came, they used to say to me, the snow used to be above their waist.
Really? Wow.
That was in the 60s. The snow was up, and they had to go out there and still go and work and everything else.
It's weird. I've heard my mum say that as well. She used to say that it was really cold. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know whether they were acclimatized to a warmer temperature and it was just getting used to that.
It was the snow,
the colder
as well.
temperature.
The snow was very, very high. And when I came here as well, we have toilet indoors at the moment and bathroom indoors.
Yes.
We had to go outside for the toilet.
The toilets were outside.
The toilet was outside next to the coal bunker because we only had coal as well.
Yeah.
So when you're using the toilet, or you see, and then you're freezing, and you see icicle ready to drop on you. But you had to run back into the house.
Very different lifestyle to what me and Hamza have than right now. It's not. That's something I find quite difficult to even imagine what it must have been like for people like my parents, or like if those who have got grandparents that were here. It must have been very different for them. I mean, with the temperature thing, I'm just thinking. I guess that's not a bit of global warming, then, isn't it?
No, it wasn't warming. It was cold.
No. It was cold, but I'm saying the reason they're not the same now. I'm thinking it might be due to climate change and things like maybe that's why we don't have as much snow and that's why it's not as cold as it used to be back in the 60s. You know,
because when I came here and it came off the plane, I've seen it in New York when we had to change to train, and I thought, what is this? I've never seen something white. Yeah.
How old were you when you came to the UK? You were 10 years old. What was that like? Because that must have been a big shock, and it's not just the weather; it's a whole culture shock. What was that?
I think is
first bit like?
Yeah, we never knew our parents. Couldn't remember what my parents looked like. I have to have an imagination about my dad. You know, he was nice and tall, about 6 foot high. But when I came here, he wasn't that tall. But we never know them because of the way, you know, Commonwealth, Britain need workers. So this is why the Queen came to the countries and asked people to come to Britain to work.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of black people and Asian people doing buses and cars and taxiing and hospital. And
they had to come in and fill in some of the labour force after World War II and stuff. So, and I guess that's where they started, and slowly they eventually opened up their own businesses. Something me and Hamza have spoken about before in our radio shows, where we sort of, our parents or grandparents, they sort of started on sort of a low level doing things, as you said, like being a dustbin man or, you know, a cleaner or something like that. And now they've slowly, as they've become a bit more financially a bit more stable and they've got a bit more wealth coming into their family, they've been able to set up businesses and set their kids up, and, you know, and the kids are getting more educated as well.
Yeah, where my parents and people who came here, they wasn't educated because a lot of them, my parents couldn't even read or write, because when they look at it, when they were younger, they was doing like slave work as well. So they was cleaning back home. Yeah. So there was a cleaner there, domestic and everything else for somebody else until they come here. But when I came here, the way I was brought up in the West Indies is you got white people, but we didn't see color. Even though we all go to school, we didn't notice the color. We wasn't taught that's white, that's black. Everybody until I come here.
And that's when it was all sort of pointed
that's
out.
That's when it is, go back to your home country, you come here, you take her a job and everything else. And look at things. And the skinhead and the teddy boys, my parents have to walk in a group of maybe 18, but there wasn't knife crime or anything as bad as that. It's, you know, the teddy boy, the skinhead, they have motorbike and some is there arguing.
So you had to travel in groups for safety?
My parents have to.
Oh, your parents did, okay.
They did. And a room like this used to maybe hold 18 people because they wouldn't give us a room. They wouldn't give us nowhere. So until they get used to us.
Wow. Very interesting.
That racism, that's been a common theme for anybody that's come to especially 70s and 80s, because there was no diversity back then. So these were the first groups of people of colour coming to the UK, because before that nobody had seen anyone black, brown or any other skin colour. So it was a big shock to the system for tradition, you know, English, British, white people. It was a big shock to the system.
Especially when they're coming off the ship. So you never seen blacks. You know, everybody is a bit panicky where you come. They wouldn't even let us in their house. They wouldn't even talk to us. And plus, I speak patois as well. And the way I pronounce things, they couldn't understand it. But I tell you one thing what did annoy me, and it's when I reached a certain age and I had my oldest son in the hospital, and when I gave birth, the nurse says, I need to look at your tail. And I thought, hang on a minute, do I look like a monkey?
What did they mean by that?
Because we give birth, they want to check below. Instead they say, we need to look at your tail. And I thought, hang on a minute, I ain't got a tail. So it's little things like this, but I can only talk about my experience.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So
Was there anything else about sort of British culture apart from the weather? Was there anything else about British culture which was a bit of a shock to you? So there was the racism, there was the weather. Was there anything else that especially coming from from Jamaica? Is that right? Yeah. So anything else about the British culture where you thought, oh, okay, this is a bit
the food.
The food.
The food was completely different.
We talk about food. It's normally me that starts the conversations about food. So when you came here, what did people typically eat? Because you've got your own food. You're used to eating certain types of food back home in Jamaica for 10 years.
Yam, banana, plantain, and everything.
But you can't get any of that. Or could you get any of that?
Where?
When you came here?
It was very liquor until the Asian shop they started to open up, and a few black shops started to open up. And even so, when the Asian take away, the white people used to say, "Oh, don't want to taste it. I'm not eating no foreign food." Because that's something that they wasn't used to either.
That's very different now, isn't it?
Very different.
The national dish is what? Chicken tikka masala.
I
Is a
can't
national
cook it.
dish. Neither can any of us. It's not our dish.
But right, you're two boys, yeah,
Go on.
and you can't cook, and you can't cook.
Oh
no, hold on.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Hold on.
Do you want to clarify that, Hamza?
Clarify that.
I can cook very well. I don't do chicken tikka masala.
So not curries. What you meant was we don't cook traditional Indian food necessarily.
I don't even mean that. I'm saying that chicken tikka masala is not really a proper curry.
I've seen it. I'm going to have some later.
It's a bit of an invention.
Yeah.
It was created for a white British audience rather than something we eat at home.
Yeah, a lot of it is because fish and chips, that wouldn't taste nice to us because we haven't experienced those back home as a child. So they all got the taste differently. Packet of crisp. Our crisp was a biscuit back home.
Yeah.
So the food is completely different. Baked bean, what is that? Because we have red kidney beans and guinea, all these.
So is that the sort of foods you were eating when you came here? Baked beans?
I didn't eat it at first because I didn't like the taste.
So what did you eat? Or what sort of food
Our
was?
parents had to go out and try and get cornmeal, make cornmeal porridge and them things.
Oh, okay.
And then the yam, the banana. But after a while, you get used to
Oh, you got used to it.
Yeah.
When you came, and are there any heartwarming stories about hospitality or things that white British people, good, nice, compassionate things that happen? Because there was racism, and we're quite well aware of that. My parents told me about things that happened back then as well. But have you got any stories where people went out their way and you saw a real human side to people?
Going to school as well, that was good because we all mixed together in a classroom. Black, white, and Asian, and everybody else. So growing up, it wasn't as bad as things start changing. So, it's like the forest recreation ground in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Friday, especially Saturday and Sunday, you can guarantee go over to the forest recreation ground. That's before all the car parties there.
Yeah.
And it was a culture thing. Everybody sat in their car and they was playing their music. They were playing, they were doing cricket. They were playing football. So everybody were united together. The pub, I don't know if you noticed where the cricketers pub is in Ice and Green, where the market is. There's a pub.
Oh, there is a pub. It's close. It's a car wash.
It's a car wash. And many years ago, you ask any Black or Asian people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s about the cricketers. Yeah. They know the cricketers because they used to go there and play domino, meet up, and everything else.
That was like the central point for them to have the little socials.
Yeah, because Ice and Green changed. Compare, because the flat they're not down now. Because it used to be flat and masonette. where the supermarket is.
Yeah, because my parents always used to tell me that Radford Road, that Hyson Green, that area, it was quite predominantly an Afro-Caribbean population there, more than Asians. I think the Asians came later, didn't they?
Yeah.
Where generally it was there. And I know this sounds really bad, but my parents being from Bangladesh, but when they got here, they were a bit racist towards more towards black people. They were just, I don't know why, but they had this fear. And they used to tell me, don't go near Radford Road. That's what they used to tell me. And
did you go?
Of course I did. I mean, I was born and raised here. It's different for me. I'm going to school with people from mixed backgrounds and everything. But for my parents who were from Bangladesh, which was still quite strange for them, they looked at white people in one way, but then they looked at black people in a different way. And I don't know if they looked at them lower than them in terms of status or something like that, or they were just based on what they've seen on the media, just assuming, crime and things like that. But it was wrong. It's very wrong. It's something I used to always call my parents out, and I was like, what are you talking about? My neighbor was black, and my mum and my dad were really friendly with them, but yet they would still occasionally
cautious.
Say, they were still cautious. Oh yeah, be careful when you go into that area there.
But one question, when you were growing up and you have these black neighbors next door, did you used to go in their house as well? Each other go in each other's house?
Not necessarily going into the house, but we were very friendly. Our gardens were right next to each other, so we would talk to each other from the gardens. My parents would give them food, they would give us food. Things like that. So, we were very friendly, but not necessarily going into each other's houses, but we were very friendly. But it's strange. You'd think that would break the sort of stereotype. But my parents still had a little bit of fear, and I think it's changed now. Obviously, it's changed now. But I'm talking about back in the early days. I'm talking about when I was 5-10 years old. Growing up, I remember hearing my parents saying things like that.
And then with the elderly, no matter what culture you are, we have to call them auntie or uncle.
Yeah, we do the same.
We wasn't allowed to call them by their name. Otherwise, we get grounded.
Grounded?
Yeah.
We got more than grounded.
Is that the same with your grandkids?
Yeah.
You've got grandkids, right?
Yeah.
How old is your oldest or youngest?
My oldest grandson is 23.
23, right. So we find out a little bit younger than us.
Yeah.
So that generation, are they still saying uncle and auntie?
Yes.
Because they are good.
And they keep saying, oh, Mom, we're a bit too old to be saying auntie and uncle. But this is how we were brought up. Even now, if I go out and see somebody, elderly person, even in the Asian community, it's hello auntie, you all right? It's hello uncle, you all right?
Oh, so it's not just within sort of your Jamaican community or Caribbean community. You do it with the Asians as well. Oh, that's interesting.
Because at the end, it's respect.
Yeah.
And if you look at today's generation of children, not all of them, some of them hasn't got no respect for themselves, never mind about the elderly. They just go out. Because
me and Hamza, obviously, we've always, older generation, we've always said uncle, auntie, but I've never really thought about saying it to anyone outside of the Asian community. So we would do it if they were Asian, from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, we'd say uncle, auntie. But for someone within the black community, we would never think, oh yeah, they're older than us, we should call them uncle and auntie. I don't know, never
I didn't know it was a cultural thing within the Caribbean as well. That you use uncle and auntie. Interesting.
So how do you find it if you have to go out and say to the West Indian Caribbean, hello auntie, hello uncle, what is it you're going to expect?
I don't know. Sorry, I just realized we have to cut to a quick break, so we'll carry that on just after the break. Hello and welcome back to Verbal Outpost. Just before the break, we were speaking to our guest Pam, who's been giving us some insightful information about what it's been like growing up back in the 70s. So I thought let's just try to continue that conversation. So what were we talking about just before the break? We had to. Man, I can't remember now.
Have you got dementia?
Dementia, yeah, maybe. Maybe I got a bit of dementia.
It's just we had about a 10-minute break.
And we spoke about so many other things in between.
Right, I remember. We're talking about calling elders in our community uncle and auntie. And Pam, you asked us a question just before we went. What response do we expect from elderly people from the Caribbean when we call them uncle and auntie? That was the question.
Yes.
So Shafiq, do you want to go first?
I think it'll be quite nice. I might try it, to be fair. I might, you know, if I come across someone from that community, so say uncle, auntie, and just see, you know, they might appreciate that.
But that's the trouble what we have. We're afraid. What we don't understand, we're afraid of. But and the anxiety, shall I say this, shall I say that? Just go up and just says, hello, auntie. Maybe they might have a shock.
Yeah.
Because there's not many Asians.
Yeah, that'll
go
do.
up to them and said, "Hi, auntie or uncle," you know. But don't stop.
Yeah, but with the whole being afraid thing, though, I mean, unfortunately, in sort of this day and age now, you have to be careful with what you say now because people get offended so quickly now. It might be different with the Asian and the black community, but definitely within the white community, you have to be very careful with how you say certain things, certain words you're not allowed to use anymore. You have to be careful about gender and all sorts like that. A lot of times I see people sort of almost tiptoeing about how to address people.
But this is why I said, even though I'm on the show today and I do the Happy Empathy Hour on a Wednesday, I always use the word my view and opinion. So it's my view, it's my opinion. So that way, we on the radio, we're protecting ourselves. We can't go out and say, this one did that, that one did that. Because we all got views and opinions
of course,
and something. What do you think?
Yeah.
You're shaking your head.
No. I agree. I mean, we talk about a whole lot of stuff, some of it quite controversial at times, so we have to say it's our opinion.
Yeah.
If it is something controversial, we usually come with some data or figures or something, just so we don't get into any trouble, but usually it is just our opinion.
You know, today is going to be fun. I've got 2 boys in the studio today. They're babies.
And we've just realised we need to call you Auntie Pam.
Yeah,
so
Auntie
it's not
Pam.
even just Pam, so it's Auntie.
I don't
Yes, thank you.
So no, we're aware of that now. So
And how do you feel?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, Auntie Pam.
Are you trying to...
all good.
It's
All
because the next thing I might do is adapt you as well.
Oh, is it?
I seem to have so many adopted children from the Asian community.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and I feel proud walking on the street with them, boys and girls. You know, and when I said introduce them, oh, this is my adopted son or my adopted daughter, I usually get funny look at, oh, can you from the Caribbean have Asian kids? But I'm proud.
No, but that's good. It means you're probably quite well respected within the community, and a lot of people know you, and you know, and that's why they can say that, right? And that's
like,
why they react like that.
It's now I could say to you, I'm going to adopt you, and I can guarantee somebody, oh, that's Pam again. She adopted. It is, you know. The good thing about being here, thank you for inviting me, is you two are boys.
Yes.
In my eyes. Yeah, are boys. And there's so many things that you two doesn't really understand. Yeah.
Can you give us an example? What do you mean? So, because obviously you've got kids yourself. So your kids are in like 40s.
Are you telling everybody now?
Yeah, but I'm just saying that some of them are older than us. So when you say that, what do you mean? What do you think we don't understand, and what do you think we can learn?
It's not so much. It's the way, because they're boys. You know, I'm fascinated with my boys, because I can mum and angle them. Yeah, I don't mean batter them. I don't mean it's like your mother taught to you. You can't raise your voice to your mom. I can. I'll give you a hint with my two of my sons when they were younger, and even now they still do it. When they don't do anything, oh, mom, we didn't do this, and mom starts shouting and screaming. Yeah, there's no swearing, there is nothing. And when they had enough of me having a go at them, they picked me up, put me over their shoulder, put me in the chair, sit, don't move. You see, it's nothing horrible about that. It's just them saying, Mom, sit, like I'm sitting now. And I just thought, I'm not moving then. So it's that relationship what we had where some kids would have started abusing their parents. My boys always said, Mom, if we want to hurt you, we could. But look at the size of you. We could pick you up with one little finger. Right? So you see where I'm...
I've got boys as well, right?
Yeah.
And they're getting bigger. They're almost the size of their mum. And me and their mum have had this conversation. We've said that, look, at some point they're going to get bigger than you.
Yes.
But that's why we need to instill in them now. You need to be. It's not even fearful. You need to respect your mum. It's that respect. It doesn't matter how big you are. That respect will always take over any thought of hurting, harming, violence, whatever. And I do believe there's a spiritual connection there as well. There's something there. The fact that this person gave birth to you as well. Mm-hmm. There's some sort of spiritual connection there where you just can't do it. Where the thought shouldn't even cross your mind. Shouldn't.
I don't know. They're going to get bigger, yeah? And it's got to be the respect what they got. Rules. It's more... Now, there's a lot of home out there hasn't got rules in their home with their children. Society has changed, yeah? My kids now, if they're going to sit on the dinner table, turn your phone off. Don't want that phone on. Yeah? I taught my boys them from they were quite young. They learned to wash their underwear, their socks in the bath. Yeah? They had to learn to iron. They have to learn to cook because and they had to do it from a young age. So you're looking at maybe 7 and 8, even though I'm in the house, they have to, and I do night shift. Yeah. So they have to learn those because I always says, learn to wash your clothes. I did it when I was younger. I used to carry firewood on my head. You seen the advert. Yeah. I used to carry water for miles. If you see, because that's what and I'm sure your parents tell you all of these. Yeah. So I taught them from a young age. I always say to the boys, I'm a woman, I'm your mother. Treat a woman with respect. Yeah. The way you want your mother, a man to treat your mother. Yeah. Yeah. So treat women the same way. Because boys not going to stand there and let a man beat their mother. Well, society changed now because kids are doing it. Yeah. But it's that respect. And my kids used to run to their grandparents. Mom, Nan, talk to mom. Or go to my sister, you know. Auntie, go and talk to your sister. She won't let us do this. She don't. So it's that relationship as well, what you got with your children. It's me, when my parents was alive, I couldn't bring a boyfriend into the house and stop. Even overnight, we wasn't allowed to. I wasn't even allowed to have a boyfriend till I was 18. And I still have to be back in the house by 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the way we were brought up.
How do you think things have changed? Because you've got... Do you have any great-grandkids?
Oh, I got great-grandkids.
You've got great-grandkids?
Yeah,
Great-grandkids, bless you.
It's about 3.5 weeks now.
Oh, wow, 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, haven't seen her yet.
Congratulations.
Oh, please.
That's a pretty big milestone.
Yeah, because I always said I would love to have children, so the children could get to know their grandparents before they pass. Because we were brought up with our grandparents when our parents left us to come here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was granddad, and they were looking after about 15 kids. Yeah. Wow. And their parents was all here. So, you know.
See, my grandparents, both my granddads passed away before I was born, so I didn't know them. And both my grandmas, lived in Bangladesh, so I only saw them every 5 years, every 10 years, depending on how often my parents took me to Bangladesh to see them. So that relationship I had with them, it wasn't great. It's like I knew them, I knew they were my grandparent, but it wasn't as close as maybe it could have been if I grew up in Bangladesh.
Yeah, because
so I sort of missed out on having that relationship, whereas my kids now, my parents are alive, my wife's parents are alive, so my kids have got that relationship with their grandparents. They're spending a lot of time with them, and you know, they're very close.
Grandparents spoil kids.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah,
and I keep reminding my kids, you know, that's something you should be really grateful for. And you know, it's really fortunate that you've got. Not everyone has that luxury of having their grandparents around. You know, unfortunately, some grandparents have passed away for a lot of people. Some of your friends and stuff, they might not have grandparents around, but you've got all four.
Sometimes they know the grandparents, but the family, the mother or father won't have nothing to do with them. So there's loads out there.
Yeah, there's that too as well.
What about you?
Similar situation to Shafiq. So didn't spend a massive amount of time with them because I had two of my grandparents in Pakistan, two of them here. I spent a bit of time with them, but they passed away when I was youngish, sort of growing up. So my grandma passed away more recently, a few years ago. But didn't get to know them as well as my kids know their grandparents. So that's always a bit of a shame.
I think a language barrier is a bit of an issue as well. I think for me anyway, even though my parents are from Bangladesh, I know the language, but I wouldn't say I'm fluent in the language. So with my grandparents not being able to speak English, I could only sort of communicate with them so much. And I think it's a bit easier now with my parents here and my in-laws here who know a bit of English, so my kids, who unfortunately don't speak Bengali, but they can understand a little bit, but they can communicate in English and communicate with my parents just fine.
Oh, that's good. It's like me. Sometimes I forget, but we speak broken English. You call it patois.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, you heard it. Right?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to talk patois, some of your listeners won't be able to understand it. I'll pronounce something.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound. So when you speak another language, it can be hard. It can be even understand it. Is all from a different culture. So if we learn a different language from with a baby, baby pick it up, nicely. Because you two is a boy, you got your mom here.
She passed away a few years ago.
Now you become an adult.
What do you mean by that?
Right.
I think I know what you mean, but go on.
Yeah. You got your mom, you got your dad. Yeah? It's always going to be mom. Mom, you're all right. It's always the word mom. Yeah? Make the most of your parents while you can, especially mothers. Yeah? Because I always say to my children, make the most of me. Any problem you've got, come to me. Never you lie to me. Never do you anything upset me. Yeah? I might shout and scream at you, but at least I know. Because when I'm died or passed away, you become an adult. Because mom isn't here anymore for you to be shouting or mom shouting at you. Yeah? And then you're going to say, wish mom was here. I wish mom was here. The word mom is so important. And I lost my mom and my dad, which I look after. And I always said, my parents is away on holiday. Even though they passed away. They're on holiday. Somewhere around the world, they're on holiday. And when they're ready, they will send me a postcard. Yeah? That's how I look at death.
Is there a reason you look at it like that, as if they're traveling and not there? Is that because you're a Christian? Is that right? Or just you mentioned God earlier, so I wasn't quite sure.
I've got faith.
Yeah.
But grieving is a deep thing because we sit there and we grieve and wish this and wish that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I still haven't got over my parents' death.
Yeah.
So I look at it. Oh, mom, dad, when you're ready, send me a postcard.
Oh, it's just a way of your grieving process, about the way you deal with them not being in your life anymore. So you just think, okay, they're just traveling, one day maybe.
They'll send me a postcard and everything, then I know.
Grief's weird, isn't it? I mean, people process it in such different ways, and even within a family as well. Like siblings that have gone through the exact same thing, lost a parent, process it in very, very, very different ways. So it's interesting to hear how you processed it.
Because
your parents.
You remember them in your heart.
Because you never forget, do you?
You never forget.
And it does change you as a person. I don't think you ever get over it. I think you just learn to handle it a bit better.
But if
cope with it better. Kind of like how you have.
Yeah, sorry to distract. If you look at the way society is and you're elderly, and then your health is deteriorating, and you look at the way the world is at the moment, they can't cope. Elderly people cannot cope with the change in society. If you got carers coming in as well, they can't cope with that because different faces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you see that. They're not used to it. So a lot of them, when I look at it, I just thought to myself, I'm glad my parents are gone. It might sound sad to say.
Go on. What do you mean?
Because they couldn't deal with the world. they either have diabetic or there's something, or they're going to hospital, or they can't move, and you get carers in, different carers in the day. They can't cope with that. And then you got your own children who don't really want to know. Some kids out there don't want to know their parents
because they see it as a burden to look after them. So because in the Asian community, I mean, I'm hoping it hasn't changed, but it's always been quite normal to keep the parents within the house, not send them over to a home, and they would do as much of the care, the caring that they can, rather than getting carers in from outside. They will try to do as much of it they can themselves, and that responsibility gets passed down to maybe their grandkids as well, who would help out and look after their grandparents. So I don't know if that's the case within you.
All of that has changed. Okay. They all got young. You got life. They got their own life. And it is draining looking after your elderly. At home, because it's like a 24-hour thing.
Of course, They
haven't. And look at the world today. There's no money. Everybody's struggling now. They have to go to work and everything else. So that's how the world is today.
See, like back in the day, you only needed one person going to work, and you can survive on that. You could have one person at home. They could potentially look after any elderly parents that are in the house and help out with that. But now both parents are having to work just to make ends meet, and because of that, there isn't that help, as you mentioned. If you do have grandparents who need that sort of care and attention, there isn't anyone around in the house that can do that. So.
Because I've been a carer for 30 odd years. So I know
so you see all of it.
Yeah, I've seen it all. I've seen it. But it's only you're not seeing what's going on. Yeah. Sometimes we turn a blind eye because we don't want to see what's going on.
Explain a bit more about that then, because there's a lot we turn a blind eye to. But what are some of the things that we need to wake up and smell the coffee?
How many people out there knowing that in life now? You've got your children and they're abusing their parents financially, emotionally, and mentally. We all know this is happening in all our community. You married, you bring your wife or your husband to live with your parents, and either the husband is abusing the mother, or the girl or the wife is saying, "Oh, leave her." It's more. Am I making any sense?
Complete sense.
Yeah.
Complete sense.
Because the girl don't want to know the man family, but you're still in the house. And the man is not supporting the mother, or he can't be on this side. Can't take side.
I hear this quite a lot, right? Where it's the standard mother-in-law, daughter-in-law challenges, right? You've got a son gets married, brings his wife into the household. Then there's conflict between. Basically, the son is stuck. Can feel at times that he's stuck in the middle between the parents and his wife, and he's got to make it all work and make sure everyone's okay. And sometimes it's the parents that can be quite horrible to the daughter-in-law, and sometimes it's the other way around. The daughter-in-law can influence the husband, and then husband doesn't want to know his parents. Which way do you think is the most common?
It's to bring them in your home.
Okay.
It's to bring them and the abuse. Yeah. But it's sad when my children, my boys, their girlfriend, I get on well with them. Yeah. Yeah. But then again, they don't live with me.
It'll probably be very different if they were living with you. The relationship, there'll be a lot more tension maybe between you guys. Maybe. Yeah, because you can only live with someone so long before something will creep up and it will cause some conflict, I think. And then it's down to what you're like as an individual in dealing with those sort of conflicts. Are you quite a patient person? Are you able to compromise? Some people aren't willing to compromise. No. And that'll be a problem. So
we turn a blind eye. Yeah. So we pretend it's not happening, not knowing how the mother feel, how the father feel, but yet you married and it's not your mother. Yet you spend too much time with your mom and everything else. So it works. So we turn a blind eye, not knowing what is going on sometime in our own home, but we won't talk about it because we're sometimes ashamed of talking about things like this.
But the thing is, I mean, if you say that to your husband, that daughter-in-law eventually is going to be a mother. She's going to give birth to offspring, and that offspring is then going to go and get married, and then now she is taking the role of the mother-in-law. Right? So if you're doing that yourself, it then becomes a bit of an issue because someone's going to come and do that to you with your children. So it's
vice versa.
Self-perpetuating cycle. It just continues happening.
Yeah, but people are seeing it, the abuse. But then again, in our whole community, we're so ashamed of talking about what is going on in our house. And then when you go to a GP through mental health issue, we're still not opening up and says what is going on.
Why is that? Why do you think that is? Because that's we've spoken about that as well in the Asian community. It's very similar. We spend a lot of time caring about what other people think. So because of that, we keep things quiet. We don't talk about it. We don't deal with certain things, or we might try to deal with it internally. But we're a little bit afraid to put it out there into the public, say, look, these are the real life issues that we're facing, financial or marriage problems and things like that, but they'll try to keep it quiet because they're worried about what people think. So why do you think that's happening? Because obviously it's clearly happening in your community as well. Why do you think people don't like talking about it? Why is it so taboo?
Shame. They felt ashamed. I've been down the road where this is why I call my program the Happy Empathy Hour. I can only talk about my experience. And mine is, we buckle things up because we don't want to talk, because people is going to think, I'm going to make, you shouldn't have done that, or get on with your life, do better. But yet we're not opening up. So the Happy Empathy Hours is to able to understand other people's feelings, emotional, and needs. Yeah. So you talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, how am I going to know? If you don't express yourself, how are we going to know?
How do you think we can get over that stigma then? How do you what do you think could help change that perception?
Talk
that
openly.
difficulty? Just to be a bit more open and
open about it.
And get rid of some of the shame about.
Yeah.
I think maybe the shame comes from when an individual is identified. So what makes your radio show good is because people don't necessarily have to identify. They're calling in, aren't they? I'm guessing.
People call it right now. People, they listen.
Yeah.
But some people are afraid of phoning, or they don't want their voice to be recognized.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if their identity is hidden, that probably makes it a little bit easier to open up and speak to someone. And I think that's maybe where part of the problem is, where maybe we need more outlets where people can call in anonymously and not worry about being identified, and then speak about their issues. Because I think once obviously someone's identified, it's like, this person knows me or that person knows me, and they're going to think this about me now and about me and my family, and they're going to tell me, why did you do this or why didn't you do that? And maybe they don't want that. They just want to be able to
just open up and not judge. Because a lot of people is known to judge. I don't judge. Just carry on. Who am I? God is the judge. Yeah, but opening. And also the other big issue what I find, men do not talk about their emotion and their feeling. They don't. Men more buckle it up. So this is why I'm trying to set up a men's group.
Okay. I think that's changing now in society anyway. I think it's changing a little bit now because I feel like there's a lot more emphasis on mental health and things like that because of that. And there is some focus on, men being a bit more open about these things, because obviously there was this whole masculinity thing where men have to be strong and bottle things up and just get on. And I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that 100%. I do think men do need to. We in our religion we have gender roles, and men do have to act a particular way. But it's not to say that we can't also have that bit of vulnerability where we can talk about certain issues and get support from people, where it's not just one way or the other. It's just finding a balance.
It's no point suffering silence alone. There's help out there and everything. But I must congratulate both of you just by talking about different topic today, and talking from a man's point of view as well, and a boy's point of view as well. So that is good. So it's a start.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't say that, talk about the ring rush and everything, and listen, but you don't express it many people out there. So thank you. You don't
No,
know anything.
you're welcome. It was nice having you here and trying to get some different points of view. We've still got a few more minutes, so we've got we've got other stuff we can ask you. So it's not over just yet. Pam was like, "Look, I think I'm done. I'm going to end the show. Yeah, I'm going to end the show." But
Yeah.
Almost.
you have to remember, you're on our show, so we've got.
So I'm part of a VRU team now, violence reduction team.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's to do with knife crime as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
part of the community ambassador.
Mm.
Nice.
So yes.
Tell us a bit more about that and how are you helping and what are you noticing? We're a fair bit. We're still boys in your eyes,
Yes.
but we're a fair bit older now,
Yeah.
and we don't see what happens with teenage kids and that pressure that they have for some reason to use a knife. We don't fully understand that, but what are you seeing and what's your experience? Why are people doing this? And is it kids? Is it just kids, or is it?
These days, kids don't want to be kids anymore. It's what some of them can get. They use it for money. Parents might not have it. We don't know the real reason, but they walk into a gang as well. So knife crime is on the increase. It's very much on the increase. And it is so sad. And when knife crime is on the increase and somebody take a life through knife, it's not one parent it's going to affect. It's not one family. So you're thinking the person, the knife, who did the knifing, yeah, that's one family. Have to go through that grieving. And then it's the family, other families. So it's two families.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think today's generation of kids, I don't care. So you've got people maybe from sentence coming down this end, they call it, and they move around because that's their area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like to say they're fighting each other.
I remember when I was younger, I did remember hearing about gangs from different areas having sort of beef with each other and whatnot. I guess it still surprises me that that stuff still goes on. I mean, maybe it shouldn't surprise me. I kind of just thought it's something people grow out of, you know.
But this is a different generation.
Yeah, it's a
of
different
kids.
generation. Yeah, it's just. I feel like this generation of kids, I thought they were maybe a bit more. I'd like to hope they were a bit more mature or they've changed a little bit, but I guess it's still the same. They go through the same issues we did when we were younger, just slightly different, maybe a bit more modernized and whatnot. Now they've got they're picking up fights with people online, use it through their phone and social media. Yeah, you know, someone on social media, you know, has said something, so now they're picking a fight with that person. But that person might not even be in Nottingham. It's someone from a different city that they're picking a fight with, where before it was all at least within the city, but now they're picking fights with people from anywhere, and now, you know, they're going to each other's cities, you know, getting into fights, and it's like, it's madness.
Can you remember India when you were younger as well? It's a good fist fight. In them days when my dad was, 80s, now it's a good fist fight. There was no weapon or anything, you know, and then they become friends again after. But now it's a knife and the drugs and everything, what's sending a lot of these young kids to lolling. And parents now can't control some of these kids.
Do you think it's a case where they maybe didn't bring the kids up in the right way from the beginning, from when they were younger? So do you know, we were speaking about respect, respecting your mum and things, that maybe they didn't teach them that, and so that when they got to that age and now that, you know, they're involved in gangs and knife crime, that when the parents now tell them, look, you need to stop, it's like, no, I don't have any respect for you, because, you know, the parents let them down when they were younger. Do you think that's why?
But then again, when you look into a lot of relationship as well, you got domestic violence, you got loads of these, and the kids they're watching it as well.
Oh, so yeah. So
And
the external factors as well.
This affect them. So what do? They go out and meet up with their friend because they can't stay in the house like that. So they watched it. It's like my kids used to say, Mom, don't think we are not watching what you do, because I brought my children up all by myself. That was my choice. Mom, we're watching everything what you do.
That's nice to hear, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and they did from a young age. And even now, my oldest son, Mom, well, you're always working, and just because I'm doing the same thing as you do, always working, and now he's a workaholic as well. My other sons, they're doing the same, the kids watch what your parents do from a very young age.
And I guess that's important. I mean, unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but I guess that's one of the lessons we can take away from here is that, having role models in the house is important. The kids will imitate what they see as growing up. So, if the parents haven't got domestic abuse and things like that, that's what they're going to take away from that. So try to have a healthy relationship with each other, isn't it?
And to tell your children what you can afford and can't afford. My kids used to get...
Sorry, the show's finished. Maybe we can have you again next time.
Be great to have you back on. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you very much, Pam. You were listening to the Verbal Outpost. We'll catch you again next time.